Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do something fun. I'm going to be creating a springtime dashboard for my ring pocket planner, and I'm really excited about it. Now, full disclosure and just a little housekeeping before we start is I did have a video up for about half a day with this exact process, but on my end it had audio and lighting issues, so I didn't like it and I took it down. So I'm going to redo the process now. I only changed one thing. I removed an ink, but everything is going to remain the same. We are going to get pretty messy here. I'm going to do some stamping, heat embossing, ink smushing with distressed inks, and we're going to do a little splatter with mica stains. I'm really excited about it. Let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to roll out my craft mat. This is from Tim Holtz. I don't believe this exact craft mat is still available, but I will link as much as I can in the description below the video of all the supplies I'm using today. I zoomed us in a little closer. We're going to be starting with a watercolor panel in an A2 size, and I'm going to have to trim it down to fit into my ring pocket planner. So we're going to start by doing 5 inches in one direction, and we're going to do 3 1/4 in the other direction. If you can see the texture on this watercolor paper, it's really, really gorgeous. I love that. We're going to be using the textured side. Most watercolor paper will have a smooth side and a textured side, and we're going to stick with using the textured side. I hole punched the card off camera, so now it's perfect for my pocket rings. And I took out my Misti stamp positioner. I'll have this linked below in the description. And what I'm going to do is just put it in the bottom right hand corner. Now this is a waffle flower grippy mat, so it's very sticky, but I'm still going to use my Misti magnet to hold this down. I'm going to just put it right here where the holes are punched. So this way I know I don't stamp in that area. We're going to be using this stamp set today from Simon Says Stamps. The name of it is Butterfly Ranunculus. Yeah, it's a challenge every time I say that. And I want to use this image right here. I've used it in past projects, and I want to use this sentiment right here that says the sun shines brightest after a storm. So I think these will pair very nicely together. So I'm just going to take them out of the package. I think these will be perfect for this card. I really like how pretty this stamp is, and I'm just going to set them on the side. I want to copy the pattern that's on the packaging, so I'm going to lay my stamp right here. I think it'll fit perfectly right there. And I'm going to place my sentiment right here down on the bottom. I'm just going to adjust this a little bit. And that's perfect. I like it like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the cover of my stamp positioner. I'm going to just press down so the stamps stick to the positioner. And now I can ink them and re-stamp them several times without my panel moving or the stamps moving. So because this has a very textured surface, I know I'm going to have to stamp it more than one time. We're going to be using Versafine Onyx black ink. I like this ink because it's great for detailed stamping, and it'll get into all those little fine details of this stamp. And I'm just going to ink this up. It will also stay wet, so when we heat emboss it, the embossing powder should stick to it really nicely. So I'm just going to really get this stamped up well. And then I'm going to close the lid, and I'm going to apply pressure to all the different locations of the stamp. Let's see what we get. Okay, it is not bad, but it definitely needs to be redone, so I'm going to do it one more time. Okay, we're going to close the lid. I'm going to press down in the center. Also on the sentiment because it wasn't stamped fully either. And let's take a look. I'm actually really pleased with that, so we're going to stay with it like this. I'm going to remove it from the stamp positioner, and we're going to move on to the next step. We're going to do some heat embossing, and I'm going to be using the Wow Clear Semi-Dull Regular Embossing Powder. Yeah, that's a mouthful. And let's just sprinkle this all over our image. The ink should still be wet. And I'm going to coat it really liberally. You want to make sure that the embossing powder sticks everywhere. I usually use an anti-static tool when I'm embossing, but with this I noticed when I did it the first time I really didn't need to do that. So we're just gonna spread this around, and I'm gonna give it a really good tap. I like to flick it with my finger like that to get anything loose off of the card. And all the embossing powder that I don't want to stick anywhere else out of those little grooves in the watercolor paper. I'm just going to put all my embossing powder back into its container. That's why I like to use a piece of paper for this. There's a lot of different things you can use. You can have a container for it, lots of choices. Whatever is easiest for you. I tend to like using a piece of paper. And we're done with the embossing powder. So let's heat emboss this. This is my favorite part. I'm going to be using a Wagner heat tool. I purchased this on Amazon. I really like this. It's actually made for paint stripping, but I like it because it has two different powers. It has low and high, and this is really great for heat embossing. It gets really hot really quickly, and it heat embosses very well. Okay, it did warp a little bit from the heat, but that's not a problem. It will straighten out as we go through this process. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is a little bit of ink smushing. But before we do that, I want to cover the back of my card because I don't want anything to get on the back of this card if I can help it. It came out really good. I don't know if you can see in my lighting, but it's now raised and heat embossed, and I love that. Okay, let's cover the back with some Post-it tape. I'm just going to be using some regular Post-it tape. I had this out from the last project, and I'm just going to reuse it. I tend to reuse this stuff as often as possible. I figure it's still clean, so there's no reason why I should get rid of it. I want to press it down really well to make a good seal. And we're just going to go through like this. And I just need one more piece. This is what I'm actually using, and you can purchase it on Amazon. And I just need one last piece to cover this area right here. And I'm going to press it all down, make sure it sticks. And let's flip the card over, and we are now ready to do some ink smushing, my favorite part. I'm going to change up my inks here for this one, and I'm going to be using Pumice Stone and Scorched Timber from Tim Holtz. These are distress inks from Ranger, and I really like the combination of these two colors. So we're going to start with the Pumice Stone. Basically what I'm going to do is just smush it down on my table, and I'm going to get out my Ranger's Distress Sprayer. It just has water in it, and if you can see, it beads up really nicely. We're going to take the card, and we're just basically going to smush it on top of the ink. This is like literally my favorite part. And I really love this color a lot. Also, what you can do is if you see something you don't like, you can take a watercolor brush. I'm just removing the water from it, and you can kind of move things around and get it to the way you like. I really like that a lot. I'm going to dry it now. Next, I'm going to be using the Ranger Heat It tool. Now, I use this one for drying versus my Wagner, which is for heat embossing. This one here doesn't get very hot. It still gets hot, but not enough for heat embossing. It takes forever to heat emboss with it. Can you heat emboss with it? Yes. If you have it, you can use it. I just like to have the two different ones because I feel like they each serve their own purpose, and I will link these below as well. really like how that came out. I'm going to do this color a second time. We're going to go back in with pumice stone. I'm going to spray it with the water. And this time I'm going to just do some quick tapping motions like this. Okay, it looks very dark in certain areas now, but that will lighten up once it dries. I'm going to wipe my surface. I'm going to take out my heat tool. I'm really happy with how this came out. If you can see, we have some lighter areas and darker areas, all with the same ink pad, just because I did 2 different layers and I heated them in between. I'm not going to add any more ink to this, but we're going to do some splattering next. I took out my Tim Holtz splatter box. It is a mess. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little Post-it tape on the sentiment, because that was one issue I had in the last video as well. Some of the darker ink made the lettering not look so great. So that's good. I just want to cover and mask that area so this way we don't get any mica spray on that section. The first ink we're going to use is a Crooked Broomstick, which is a mica stain. I love this color. It's beautiful. It's like a really pretty bronze color. Now we're going to shake this up. If you can hear, there's a little bead inside there. You want to make sure that that bead is really shaken up well and all the mica from the bottom of the bottle is dispersed. I'm not going to be spraying, but if you're spraying and you don't shake it up properly, you will clog the nozzle. These are notorious for getting clogged easily. So I'm just going to give it a good shake because I want all of that mica to disperse well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do some splattering with this. I'm just going to take it like this and get some of these dark splatters all over my card because I absolutely love splatter. Now we will have to dry this because mica stains are notorious for staying wet too long for me. Okay, that's perfect. Now if you see something that you don't like, you can easily take a cloth and blot it, and it will lighten up as it blends into the paper and as it dries. The next spray we're going to use is Fallen Acorn. I love this one too. It's got a really pretty brown color, and I'm just going to shake it up really well. As you can tell, you can't hear that paintball yet. There we go. It's starting to shake up well. Yep, they require a lot of shaking, but I love them. And again, I'm not spraying, so I think we should be okay with any possible clogs. I'm going to just splatter this in a couple of locations. So we're all done with the splattering. Let me remove the splat box. I'm taking out my heat tool and we're drying again. Now if you notice when I'm heating it, sometimes I do the back as well. I feel like that helps with the warping. Now see, even though I masked this, we got some ink in the back, and I'm totally okay with that because I think I'm going to end up putting a panel in the back of it. I just was going to see if it remained clean, and if it doesn't, we'll just put a panel in the back of it. It's not an issue. I'm going to remove the Post-it tape from the sentiment area because I didn't want the splatter to go there. It looks easier to read. If the splatter hit these dark letters, they would just become like a big blob and you wouldn't be able to read the sentiment. So the card is finished and I really love it. I'm going to show you a close-up of it, kind of give you an idea. It's hard to see the actual mica stain, but it's there and it's very pretty. It has like a nice metallic look to it. I took an insert that I had from Cloth and Paper. I will link it below. It's the notes insert, and I attached it to the back, and I really love that because now I have a note area. What I'll do now is I will dry this card again because they're notorious for spreading ink, and I will rub it with a microfiber cloth to make sure that everything is dry before I put it in my planner. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. That really helps my channel. Please subscribe if you aren't. Also hit that notification bell. It'll help remind you of any future videos that I'll be posting. We're going to be doing a planner flip in the next video, so stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you guys like this. Bye!